You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello, Charles. How's it going? Oh, I'm doing just fine. Yeah, things are progressing quite nicely, and so I'm going to keep that momentum going as long as I can. Very good. Yeah, the resources within that prison may not be the best in the world, but taking advantage of them will definitely benefit in the end. So I'm glad you're taking these classes. I'm glad you're communicating with your family, and I'm glad you're able to maintain your sanity in there. That's definitely key. Yeah, yeah, I understand that you will be getting out soon, going to work release. Now there are a couple of people I know that are in the reentry program, and they're doing really well. The job market isn't the best, and that's for anybody. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're an ex-con. But having that extra edge, because out here, there's people that don't want to take advantage of a college education or a technical skill, or some that just can't afford it. But you guys are giving that opportunity. So you can take advantage of some training and and you can work in a program that can give you some experience, something that the average person out here doesn't necessarily have access to. And walking out here, you have that advantage because you can show that you have some experience or that you have some training or that you have a degree. And you've got that advantage. And I advise you to take full opportunity to use that to gain gainful employment. Right, right. It well, I guess it mainly what you want to do is just get through the door, and you don't have to keep bragging about stuff, and you certainly don't have to keep talking about going to prison. I mean, once you commit the crime, which is wrong, and you get convicted, which is right, and you go to prison and you get out, that should not hamper you. People shouldn't keep bringing that up. And I know you're going to hit a lot of obstacles because of that, but it's up to you. When I was growing up, I had to work harder than the people around me just to be considered an equal. There was a lot of discrimination back in the early days of my life. And that was the way I coped with it. And having a criminal background is definitely a disadvantage. But if you let it control you, it's just going to get worse. What you want to do is prove to people that you can do this and that the going to prison was actually beneficial. And I know as much as we don't like
You have 60 seconds remaining.
giving credit to the Department of Corrections, when going in for a job interview, you have to. You have to say that the justice system sentenced me to prison. I got some training. I got some help. I was able to get some counseling. I was able to get the medical treatment I needed. Blah, blah, blah. And now I want to put all that to work out here in the employment world.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm glad you have that attitude. That's what we want. And It's up to you to prove that the system works and there's no reason to keep using it against you. But if you get out and keep committing crimes, it doesn't help anybody, especially you. Good, yeah. Tell people that. Be their mentor. Okay, well, thanks for the call and good luck. And make sure you stay in contact once you get out. I'll do what I can to
Thank
help
you for
you.
using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and I would like to talk about the true nature of the Department of Corrections. Now, we have this idea in our mind that when a person commits a crime, especially a violent offender, the person is sentenced to prison and is sitting in there away from society so that society doesn't have to worry about this person getting out and recommitting a crime, but also as a form of punishment. A crime was committed, and so this person needs to pay the price for that crime. The That way, when people are criticizing these folks, they're more or less saying if you had followed the law, just like the rest of us, you wouldn't be sitting in there. So whatever happens in there, you just have to deal with it. And for the most part, that's usually what happens. People are sitting in there. A lot of their rights are ignored, and they don't get the care and the treatment that they deserve because that's their right. And in some cases, you'll hear criticism about some things that they get, maybe a gender change or maybe some cosmetic surgery or something like that. And there could be various reasons for that. But I would say for the federal prison, we don't need to be giving them anything extra, just the basics. State prison, that's all up to the voters of the state. If they want inmates to get certain privileges, so be it, especially if it will help in rehabilitation. But you have to understand the Department of Corrections is called corrections. That's an important word in that title. And what's supposed to happen is the person gets convicted and resources are supposed to be made available so that when the person gets out, there's little chance of reoffending and there's little danger to the public. And that's what I, as a prison reformist, want to see. And I broadcast on this podcast and post on social media concerning issues that are important to the people who are living in the community and the people who are working within the Department of Corrections and the people who are locked up in these facilities. One of the things that the Department of Corrections should be doing is helping people to get back into society and be gainfully employed. It's a way of paying it forward because if a person commits a crime and then goes to prison, learns job seeking skills, and maybe gains an education, comes out as a skilled laborer, or maybe cosmetology, or perhaps they can get into computer programming. And to be able to get a degree or training and certification, that will help the person feel important. Because a lot of the people that are in prison, they figured committing a crime was easier, more convenient than actually going and getting the training and the skills. A lot of us in this society, it's tough to do that. It's tough to get a college degree or an associate degree or even to get certified. So to have a person who goes through life not knowing what's available out there, because many of the people that are in there, they drop out of high school. So they don't have that luxury of a little bit extra training and something that would make them feel important. So we as a society, we need to learn that when we talk about equality, we have to give it as well. We can't tag people for being a certain race or a certain gender. If you want to, let's say, judge somebody, it should be on the person's beliefs. If you got somebody who's a hunter and they just love hunting, and then somebody who's vegan and doesn't believe in killing living creatures, there could be a conflict, and that's an acceptable conflict. Of course, there shouldn't be any violence that comes about it, but they should be allowed to voice their opinion. They should be allowed to protest if they want, but just don't break the law. And we as a society should accept that. If there's people that go out and want to voice their opinion, allow them to. I remember when the grunge fashion statement came out, people were criticizing the way these folks dressed. If people want to dress like that, they should be allowed to. That's nothing that's harming society. And it's something that could be changed if the person grows out of it, or if the person just decides that this is too controversial. It's up to them. They can make that decision. But for us to force people into that is just ridiculous. But we should have a right to say something against it or for it. But when it comes to a woman who wants to be a bus driver, and people are saying that only males can be a bus driver, that's where we cross the line. And we have laws set up for that, discriminatory laws. And I think if we followed that, we'll be fine. But we tend to get away from it, or to kind of mask it, make it look like we're not really breaking the law, but that we are. I mean, it's gotten to the point where if you stare at a person on a bus, if you're just staring at a person, that's a form of harassment. And we don't need that, especially if the person, let's say, is just not kept the way we think people should be kept. Their hair is all in disarray, or they've got makeup on that looks like something of the Joker, from the Batman series would be dressed up like. And if we just stare at this person, making this person feel uncomfortable, it continues to happen. That's against the law. And I like this law. And we don't need to keep modifying it or hiding it. It's designed to protect us from undue discrimination. And to keep highlighting something like a person is a Latin American or Native American or African American, that shouldn't matter. We should be equal. We shouldn't walk into a job and be hired just because we're a certain race or a certain gender. We should go by our qualifications. And these people that get out of prison, they shouldn't be held as convicts or ex-convicts or murderers or drug addicts. These people should be looked at as if they paid their price. Because if we buy a house or purchase any item and we pay for it, we shouldn't be reminded of the loan that went with it for the rest of our life. We should look at the end result. This is a case where actually the end justifies the means. These people committed a crime, they got convicted, they went to prison, they were kept from society, where a lot of their rights were taken away, And they lived in a pretty uncomfortable condition. I mean, you're in there with a lot of violent criminals and people that are just very selfish. And some of them aren't very mentally well. They're out to harm themselves or others, or they're just not thinking straight. So they're stuck in there. The people that you want to avoid out on the street, they're living with, a lot of them. And it's traumatic being in prison. It's not a good thing. So what I would like is people to take away this general view and just kind of center on one person and just see what that's like. You can see movies about people that get out of prison and how tough it is to survive out there, or somebody whose secret was discovered. And the only reason they're keeping it a secret is because society shuns them. We shouldn't have to do that. We're equal people. We have just as much chance of committing a crime, and a lot of us have. We've committed crimes, and we just didn't get convicted and go to prison. And then there's those that commit the crime and then they do go to prison. And those shouldn't be the ones we're afraid of. Those should be the ones that this happened to you. Let's work so that it won't happen again. And we can do that. And it's a 50-50. We need to give them the resources, and then they as well need to take advantage of the resources. Now, one person who's recently released is Alicia Goemaat. Now, she was in prison for about a decade. So a lot changed in a decade. I don't know if you're free all your life, you don't really realize how much society changes in just 10 years, even 5 years. So imagine walking out into a brand new world. You're living pretty much locked in time in the prison. But when you get out, cell phones, entertainment, even streets and neighborhoods, people, institutions, they change. And I've worked with people that would get out and not know how to pump gas because of the new gas pumps. We watched the gas pumps evolve. There, they pick it up, pull down the handle, stick the nozzle into the tank, and put their gas in. Very simple. But now you can hold your phone up, and you got little monitors out there, and the computer turns on the pump so you could fuel. That's something that has changed over the years. And of course, cell phones change. And then you have like the doorbell cameras, DoorDash that delivers stuff. And these are things that these folks have to learn from scratch. We take it for granted because we watch them get introduced into society. And if we're interested, we go out and learn more about them. And AI is a big thing that's changed too. So that's some of the stuff that's changed since Alicia has been in prison. Now, for her, she doesn't want to concentrate on her crime. She got out and she prepared for it because she wants to go to university. She wants to get a job. She wants to pay her taxes. She wants to get her life back in order. And one of the things that happens is you've got people that are haters. They just come after her. And that's not fair to her. She paid her price. And it's you go out and you buy raw material and then you turn it into a work of art. You buy the material to make a sculpture, and you might use different things like pieces of metal, pieces of rubber, pieces of wood, and you construct this, and it's a beautiful work of art that people are interested in purchasing. What the value is, the art that you create. not necessarily the individual items. It's just your skill puts those items together to make this work of art that can make you some money. That's the way I look at the people who get out of prison. All this stuff contributed to them going to prison. But in the end, they can take it and they can mold it into something that's valuable and useful to society, and in a way could pay it forward. I would mention my fiance's crime, and she would say, if I didn't commit this crime, I never would have met you. And she's right. Our paths never would have crossed. But the fact that she's in prison and she was introduced to me in prison changes everything. So she can come out and she can become a beacon, a better person. That's my goal, to help her do that. And with Alicia, it's the same thing. She gets out. She wants to make something of her life. She wants to take all these bad experiences and mold them into something that's useful. When she gets to the university, she wants to talk to some of the other people in there who have been locked up or who have had some kind of an addiction or maybe some kind of traumatic experience in their life, to help them to cope. Because rather than just accept the person for what we see in front of us, we want to know more about them, or we want to believe rumors. I don't know why. I don't know why we have to be so negative toward folks, but we are. And that's just something people need to learn while they're in prison. I talk to the folks while they're in prison about when they get out. People are going to concentrate a lot on the crime that you committed. I know when I post profiles on social media, people immediately want to know, what crime did this person commit? And some of them are really hard to recover from. A person who's locked up for murder, it's tough to overcome that. A sex crime, or even assault. Drug theft, those are a little easier to overcome, but it's still something that these people need to be aware of when they get out. And instead of trying to avoid it and run away and hide, which makes things worse, they need to learn what to say or how to deal with it when it does come up. Because once in a while, folks will find out about your past, and you want to be able to explain it in a way that's not insulting or degrading or that will make matters worse. You just want to move on from it. And we as a society should accept that, because why? Why should we condemn these folks that have already been through a lot anyway? Yes, they committed a crime, but they went to prison. And it's taking that crime and using it as a benefit, as an asset, rather than a springboard for more crimes. It's very rare that you see a person get out of prison and keep on committing crimes. Not everybody's those TV gangsters. They want to get out, and prison should be so bad that they don't want to go back. It shouldn't be a place with free room and board and medical. It should be a place that freedom becomes number one in their life. I didn't appreciate freedom until I got it taken away from me. We should be hearing, and that they don't want their freedom taken anymore. Not that they go in there and they get beat up, or they get into forced labor, or they get mistreated by the other inmates. That's not what we want prisons to be. We want them to be a place to rehabilitate, to understand what went wrong, and to work on ways to prevent it from happening again. That's what we want the prison to be. And so Alicia, she's doing that. She's using her resources to better herself. She's going to college. She's going through orientation videos. She's going through interviews. And in some cases, things lack because the reentry center doesn't really follow up on anything or offer the stuff that she's looking for. She's learning on her own, and she knows who to reach out to, and she's growing her network. And that's what we want to see. If somebody would to read about that or see a story about that on social media or on television, it'd be easier to realize that, yes, it's bad that these people committed a crime and they're locked up, but what happens afterwards? In this particular case, the end does justify the means, because we want these folks to improve. We want them to start paying taxes. They're sucking money from us while they're sitting in prison. Now it's time when they get out to pay back. Get a job, pay taxes, and support your family. And there's a lot of people with skills that they picked up before they went to prison. We've got tattoo artists, mechanics. There's even computer programmers that are locked away. People who were nurses or medical technicians. And there's a lot of laborers, people who can pick apples or potatoes, or even do cosmetology or pet grooming. These are skills that are off the streets, and they can come back into society if we just give them a second chance. Allow this process to continue instead of just being locked up. And a big thing too is when they do get out and they want to work, we shouldn't put any restrictions on them. And I'm all for a second chance completely. And hopefully everybody else will do that too. You won't judge a person for the crimes they committed. It's better to concentrate on what they are not willing to do. If they get out and they just want to go back to crime because they're a career criminal, we need to understand that. But if they get out and they want to succeed, let's not force them into prison again by denying certification for a job or denying housing, or to require them to have a completely clean record. Some jobs I can understand, but for the most part, let's work with them. Try and give some kind of support. If you're posting something on Facebook or X, maybe think about the diverse audience that you're sharing your stuff with. And maybe if you know somebody who's willing to share their information, you can say, my coworker Bob has been out of prison for 3 years and is a supervisor. And then instead of looking for these people and making them stand out as this kind of bad title, we can see progress in America, because that's what we're all about. We fall, we get back up, and we move on. We don't just keep getting slapped down. The conviction shouldn't be a bad label. It should be an opportunity, and we should help these people. And it's easier for folks to survive and to improve their life with community support. And a well-run penal system can do that. If we want to reduce crime, we need to make people feel valuable. We need to give them a second chance. We need to work with them. I know a lot of jobs out there that have difficulty in training people properly. I was talking to one of my coworkers, and she was saying that she didn't take a job because she didn't feel that she would be trained properly in there. Training is important. giving these people those skills, they'll give them a little power. So when they walk out, they feel that they're valuable and then they can put their skills to use. We need that. Well, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll be able to talk with your friends and family about these issues and understand that we're equal and that we do make mistakes. And that's how we learn, that's how we grow. Some mistakes are rougher, bigger, badder, bolder than others, but we can still learn from them. And most importantly, we can share that information with others and maybe prevent something from happening. That's what a good parent will do. Well, go out, have yourself a magnificent day, and make fabulous memories for tomorrow.